Hello, hello, and welcome back to the deep dive. If you are listening to this right now, chances are you are looking for that edge, that specific layer of insight that turns a generic understanding into a top-tier answer.
Yeah, that little something extra.
I am absolutely pumped to be here with you today because we are tackling a topic that affects literally every single person listening every single day.
It really does. It's one of those rare topics where the textbook, it meets the grocery receipt.
Exactly. But before we get into the heavy lifting, I need to orient you properly. You are listening to a full summary for UPSC, specifically focused and curated by the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
And we're doing it with that crucial PYQ linkage, previous year questions that you all ask for.
We are not just skimming the surface today. We are going all the way to the bottom of the well.
That is the mission. We take the source material, we break it down, and we rebuild it into something you can actually use in an exam hall.
Precisely. Now, I have a question for you, the listener, and I want you to be honest. Have you ever bought something, maybe a pair of headphones, a kitchen gadget, or even just a service like an internet plan that just broke?
Or didn't work.
Yeah. You took it out of the box and it was absolute junk.
Or you paid for a service that just never showed up. The cable guy who was supposed to come between 9 and 5.
Right. And when you complained, the person on the other end of the phone or the guy behind the counter just shrugged and looked at you like, well, that's your problem, isn't it?
It's a universal feeling. It's that specific mix of frustration and helplessness. You feel small.
Well, today we aren't just complaining about bad customer service. We are analyzing the legal backbone that protects you in the economy. We are diving into NCERT Class 10 Economics, Chapter 5, Consumer Rights, but we are doing it the simplified UPSC way.
Which means we aren't just reading the chapter. We're going to deconstruct the history, the laws, the 6 fundamental rights, and this is key map them directly to the UPSC mains questions we have in our source stack.
Essential stuff. Now, a quick but critical housekeeping note for our community. We are putting a massive amount of research into these deep dives.
A lot of work goes into this.
It does. And if you are finding value here, I am going to humbly ask you to subscribe to the Simplified UPSC by PPP channel. And if you are capable, and I want to stress this, only if you are capable, please support us on Patreon.
That support is literally what keeps the lights on. It ensures the team can keep digging through these sources and bringing you this super useful content without, cutting corners.
So a huge shout out to all our current supporters. You guys are the real MVPs. You really help us a lot in creating this content. Also, don't forget to like this audio and leave a valuable comment. It helps the algorithm find other serious learners like you.
It really does make a difference.
Whoa, and for the note takers, you don't need to scramble. Free notes with practice PYQs are available on our public Telegram channel.
And for those who want the full archive access to all videos of this series at once, and the premium notes, which include detailed breakdowns, extra PYQs, and model mains answers, you should join the private Telegram library.
How do they do that?
Just DM us on the Telegram public channel to join. It's all organized there.
Okay, business aside, let's unpack this. Consumer rights. On the surface, it sounds simple. I buy a soap. I have the right to a clean flick, but the source text suggests this is actually about something much bigger.
Oh, much bigger.
It frames it as a battle between consumer and producer.
It is a battle. And to understand it, you have to look at the power dynamics.
Yeah.
The NCERT text opens with this really vivid discussion about economic development. It posits that we are all consumers, but the market isn't designed to be fair to us.
I love the visuals in this book. There's this one cartoon of a fat cat producer, literally a guy in a suit eating a massive slice of cake, and this tiny, skinny consumer begging for crumbs.
It's a bit on the nose, but it gets the point across.
It's a caricature, obviously, but what is it telling us about the market structure?
It's illustrating leverage. I mean, think about it. On one side, you have producers. In the modern economy, these aren't just local artisans. These are often massive corporations, industrial monopolies, or, highly organized trade groups.
They have money, they have lawyers.
They have capital, they have lawyers, and they have time. Lots of time.
And on the other side?
You have the consumer.
Yeah.
Us, we are scattered.
Yeah.
We are unorganized. You buy one tube of toothpaste, they sell 10 million. Individually, your purchase means almost nothing to their bottom line.
So individually, I have zero leverage. If I boycott a massive soap company, they won't even notice.
Exactly. And because of that imbalance, that asymmetry of power exploitation becomes the kind of the default setting of an unregulated market. The text lists some very common malpractices that I'm sure everyone listening recognizes,
Oh, the list is a greatest hits of getting ripped off. The text mentions short weighing.
which is so insidious.
Yeah.
You pay for a kilogram, you get 900 grams. It's theft, but it's hidden in the transaction.
Then there are hidden charges, those fees that weren't mentioned until the bill arrives. Service charge, handling fee, convenience fee.
Yes. The convenience fee for the inconvenience of paying more.
Adulteration is another big one mentioned in the text. Mixing impure substances into food.
And this isn't just financial cheating. It is a serious health hazard. Mixing stones in rice, or water in milk, or cheaper oils into expensive edible oils. It happens all the time.
And selling defective goods. I remember the text mentions this attitude sellers used to have. There is a Latin phrase for it, right? Caveat emptor.
Yes, caveat emptor. It translates to let the buyer beware.
Which is basically a fancy way of saying it is your problem now, pal.
Precisely. The traditional legal view for centuries, really, was that once the sale is completed, the seller has no further responsibility. If the product is bad, the assumption was that the buyer should have checked it better.
If you didn't like it, you should have gone elsewhere.
That's the attitude.
But that doesn't work in a modern economy, does it? I mean, maybe if I am buying a horse in 1850, I can check its teeth. But I can't chemically test my milk for adulteration in the grocery store aisle.
Right.
I can't take apart a smartphone to check the soldering before I buy it.
That is the perfect distinction. As products became more complex, the consumer's ability to beware vanished. You physically cannot verify the quality of most things you buy today.
And the text actually uses a chilling case study regarding milk powder to illustrate what happens when producers take advantage of this.
Yeah, this one is a big one.
This one really stuck with me. It talks about a massive multinational corporation, an MNC selling baby milk powder worldwide.
This was a global scandal. We aren't naming the brand here, but history knows who it was. This company was marketing its powder as better than mother's milk.
Which is a huge claim, and biologically a very dangerous one.
Extremely dangerous and objectively false. But here's the thing. They had the money. They flooded magazines, hospitals, and billboards with this message. They convinced millions of mothers that they were doing the best thing for their child by using this powder.
So they used their financial power to warp the truth.
Yes. The text notes that it took years of struggle, legal battles, protests, boycotts, to finally force the company to admit the truth.
They actually had to admit it was false.
Eventually, yes. But think about the effort required. An individual mother couldn't fight that battle. It required a collective movement. This highlights why rules are needed.
Yeah.
The market alone won't protect the weak against the strong. The invisible hand sometimes punches you in the face.
That is a great way to put it. And it is not just milk. The text mentions tobacco companies, too.
Correct. Tobacco companies knew their products caused cancer long before they admitted it. They had the data, but they buried it. They only accepted liability after massive legal fights.
So all of this really sets the stage for why we need a consumer movement. It's not just about complaining, it is about survival and safety.
It's fundamental.
So let's look at how this movement started, because it didn't just pop up overnight. The text outlines an evolution.
It did. And if we look at the global context first, the text traces it back as a social force to protect interests against unethical trade. But the big milestone, the date you want to remember, is 1985.
What happened in 85?
The United Nations adopted the UN Guidelines for Consumer Protection.
Ah, so it went international. That
Yeah.
legitimizes it, right? Gives it some real weight.
Hugely. It gave tools to nations to adopt measures, and it legitimized consumer advocacy groups to pressure their own governments.
Yeah.
It basically said, this isn't just a local dispute, this is a human rights issue.
Then this led to something called Consumers International.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is like the Avengers of consumer rights.
I like that.
It's an umbrella body for over 220 organizations in 115 countries. It globalized the struggle. It meant that if a company was cheating people in Brazil, activists in India would know about it.
But let's bring it home to India. The source text gives a really gritty timeline for India. It didn't start with fancy UN guidelines. It started with hunger.
That is a crucial observation for anyone studying Indian history. In the 1960s in India, the consumer movement wasn't about, I want a refund on my toaster. It was born out of food shortages, hoarding, black marketing, and adulteration of edible oil.
That is intense. So it was really about basic survival.
Yes. Initially, it was just, writing articles and holding exhibitions. It was very intellectual, very awareness-based. But by the 1970s, you saw consumer groups forming specifically to look into malpractices at ration shops.
Ration shops, the public distribution system.
Exactly. People were not getting their quota or the grain was full of stones. The movement started there. And interestingly, the text mentions they also started looking at overcrowding in public transport.
I love that overcrowding in transport is considered a consumer issue. It totally is. You pay for a ride, not to be crushed.
Exactly. It's a service you've paid for.
Right.
But the turning point, the moment the government really had to listen, came in 1986.
1986. This is date every UPSC aspirant needs the tattoo on their brain.
Absolutely.
Huh.
The pressure from these groups, combined with the global momentum we just talked about, led the Indian government to enact the Consumer Protection Act 1986.
Popularly known as COPRA.
COPRA, C-O-P-R-A. This was the game changer. It transitioned the movement from just raising awareness to actual enforcement.
It gave the movement teeth.
It gave the movement teeth. Before COPRA, you could complain. After COPRA, you could sue.
Okay, so we have the law. COPRA is in place. But what does it actually give me? The text outlines 6 specific rights, and I want to go through these one by one because they are the ammunition the consumer has.
Let's do it. These are the core 6. And understanding the nuance of each is really important for your answer writing.
Number 1, right to safety. This sounds basic, but explain the scope.
This is paramount. The text uses the example of a pressure cooker.
A classic Indian kitchen staple.
Right. A pressure cooker has a safety valve. If that valve is defective due to poor manufacturing, the cooker can explode. That isn't just an inconvenience. It can be lethal. People get burned. People get blinded.
So the right to safety means I have the right to be protected against goods that are hazardous to life and property.
Exactly. It implies that manufacturers must adhere to safety standards. You shouldn't have to risk your life to cook rice. It shifts the burden of safety from the user to the maker.
Right. Moving to number 2, right to information. This is a big one in the information age.
And it covers the basics we often ignore. Have you noticed why medicines have side effects listed? Or why garments have washing instructions?
I usually ignore the washing instructions until I shrink a shirt to the size of a puppet, but yes, they are there.
They're there by law. The manufacturer must provide details about ingredients, date of manufacture, price, and crucially, the expiry date.
The expiry date is interesting. The text has a case study about this.
Yes. If a product is defective within the expiry period, the manufacturer is liable. They can't just blame the shopkeeper. But there is another concept under this right that is unique to India and very important: MRP.
Maximum retail price.
The text makes a specific point. Consumers can bargain below the MRP, but they cannot be charged more. The MRP is the ceiling.
That is a powerful tool. I have definitely argued with shopkeepers trying to charge cooling charges on water bottles above MRP. Oh, the fridge costs money to run.
And you are right to argue that cooling charge is a violation of your right to information regarding price. The price printed is the maximum permissible price covering all costs, including the retailer's margin.
Good to know. Okay, number 3, right to choice.
This deals with something called tie-in sales. The text gives a scenario. You go to a shop to buy a toothbrush. The shopkeeper says, I can only sell you the brush if you also buy this toothpaste.
Or the gas dealer saying, you can only get a new gas connection if you buy the stove from us.
Exactly. That is illegal. As a consumer, you have the right to choose only the item you want. No one can force a bundle on you.
I feel like telecom companies used to do this a lot with ringtones and data packs, but that is a whole other story. It basically protects your autonomy. You are the king of your wallet.
Correct. It's about preventing monopolies from forcing products on you.
Number 4, right to representation, or the right to be heard.
This simply means that the consumer's interest must receive due consideration at appropriate forums. It is the right to say, I have a problem, and have a designated place to say it.
So you're not just shouting into the void.
You are not just shouting into the void. There's a system designed to listen. It means having a seat at the table.
Which leads directly to number 5, which is the muscle behind the voice.
Right.
Right to redressal.
This is the right to seek compensation against unfair trade practices. If damage is done, you get compensated. It is not just an apology, it is restitution.
The text has a fantastic story here about a man named Prakash. I feel like Prakash is the hero of this chapter.
Prakash's story is a perfect illustration of the system working as intended. He sent a money order to his village for his daughter's marriage.
Critical timing. You can't delay a wedding because the post office is slow.
Critical, and it never arrived. The money was lost. Now, traditionally, The post office might have just said, sorry, fill out a form, wait 6 months, maybe we'll find it.
But Prakash didn't wait.
He went to a district consumer forum. And here is the key detail that the text highlights. He argued his own case. He didn't hire a fancy lawyer.
That is huge. It shows the system is meant to be accessible.
The judge verified the documents and gave a verdict in his favor. The post office had to pay. It proved that a common man could hold a government department accountable.
There's another much sadder case mentioned, the case of a student named Matt.
Yes, this was a case of medical negligence. Matt was admitted for tonsil removal, a routine surgery. But due to improper anesthesia, he suffered brain damage and was crippled for life.
That is terrifying. Just for a tonsil removal?
Horrifying. His father fought a long, long battle. Eventually, the National Commission held the hospital and doctors responsible and awarded compensation.
Why is this so significant for our listeners?
Because it established that medical services fall under the ambit of consumer protection. You are a consumer of health care, and doctors are service providers. If they are negligent, they are liable under COPRA.
That is a massive point for anyone writing answers on healthcare accountability. Finally, number 6, right to consumer education.
This is what we are doing right now. The right to acquire the knowledge and skills to be an informed consumer. The government's Jago Grahak Jago campaign.
Wake up, consumer!
Wake up, consumer. That is the practical application of this right. You have a right to know what your rights are.
So those are the rights, but as my dad always told me, with great rights come great responsibilities. Or maybe that's Spider-Man. Either way, the text talks about consumer duties.
Yes, you can't just be a passive victim.
Yeah, you can't just demand redressal if you haven't done your part. And there is one specific duty the NCERT text highlights in bold letters.
The cash memo.
A cash memo. The receipt.
The receipt. If you buy something and don't ask for a receipt, you have effectively waived your rights. The cash memo is the proof of purchase. Without it, the court cannot help you.
It is such a small thing, but so many of us skip it. We think, oh, if I don't take the bill, he'll knock off the GST.
That is a penny-wise, pound-foolish strategy.
Right.
If that product explodes or is fake and you don't have the bill, you have no standing. The bill is your contract.
The other duty is understanding quality standards. The logos, we see them everywhere, but do we know what they mean? The text breaks them down.
Let's simplify them. You've got the ISI mark. This is for industrial goods, switches, electrical appliances, cement, things like that.
Okay.
Then there's Agmark. This is for agricultural products.
Oh.
Honey, edible oil, spices, cereals.
And for jewelry.
Hallmark.
Oh.
This is specifically for gold and jewelry. Purity, so you know you're not getting a fake.
Now here is a nuance the text mentions. Are these mandatory for everything?
No, and that is a great question. For most goods, getting certified is voluntary. A manufacturer can choose to get an ISI mark to show quality. However,
There's a catch.
there's a catch. For products that affect health and safety like LPG cylinders, food additives, bottled water certification is mandatory.
So if I buy a bottle of water without a certification mark, that is illegal.
Yes, that product should not be on the shelf. As a consumer duty, you should look for these. If you buy a non-certified gas cylinder to save money and it leaks, the legal system will look at your negligence too.
Okay, let's say I did my duty. I got the cash memo, I checked the ISI mark, but the pressure cooker still exploded. I need to sue. Where do I go? The text outlines a 3-tier redressal mechanism.
This is the structural heart of COPRA. It created a quasi-judicial machinery.
Why quasi-judicial? Why not just judicial?
Because it's not a full civil court with all the complex procedures, wigs, and Latin jargon. It's designed to be simpler, faster, and less formal.
In theory.
In theory.
Mhm.
And there are 3 levels. Based on the value of the claim, meaning the cost of the goods, plus the compensation you're asking for.
Okay, let's break down the limits. And I know these figures might have been updated in recent amendments, but we are sticking to the NCERT source text for this summary to stay true to the curriculum.
Correct. According to the text we're using, the district forum deals with claims up to Rs 20 lakh.
Okay.
Then you have the state commission.
Hmm.
That deals with claims between Rs 20 lakh and Rs 1 crore.
And for the really big ones.
The national commission. That's for claims exceeding Rs 1 crore.
So for Prakash and his money order, that was the district forum, small claim. For the medical negligence case where a life was ruined, likely the National Commission.
Exactly. And there's an appellate flow.
Mhm.
As a ladder, if the district forum dismisses your case, you don't just go home and cry. You can appeal to the state commission.
And if they dismiss it.
You go to the National Commission.
Yeah.
And if the National Commission dismisses it, you can then go to the Supreme Court.
It is a ladder of justice.
Precise.
Now, before we move to the deep dive section, there is a distinction the text makes between a consumer court and a consumer protection council. Are they the same thing?
No, and this is often confused. The Consumer Court, that's the forum or commission, is the place that delivers the verdict. They judge the case. They have the gavel.
And the council.
The Consumer Protection Council, or a consumer forum in a non-judicial sense, is a voluntary organization. They guide consumers on how to file cases. They create awareness. They're like a support group.
So the council is like a coach and the court is the referee.
That is a good analogy. The text also mentions RWAs, Residential Welfare Associations, playing a role here, taking up cases for their members against builders or service providers.
Okay, we have covered the text. We understand the landscape. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. This is the deep dive. We need to link this static textbook knowledge to the dynamic world of UPSC mains questions.
This is the so what section. Why does a future bureaucrat need to master this?
Let's look at the source stack. We have a question from 2025 GS1, question 10. I'll read it out.
Go for it.
Do you think that globalization results in only an aggressive consumer culture? Justify your answer.
This is a beautiful question to link back to Chapter 5. It forces you to think dialectically. The key word is only.
So how do we connect them?
We'll start with the aggressive consumer culture. The NCERT text explicitly discusses how large MNCs with huge wealth can manipulate markets. Remember the milk powder example?
Right. That's globalization creating aggressive, manipulative marketing.
Exactly. It creates a culture where we buy things we don't need or that are actually harmful because of false information passed through media. But the question asks if it results only in that.
And the answer have to be no.
And the answer is no, because globalization also globalized the resistance. The text mentions the UN guidelines of 1985 and Consumers International. The consumer rights framework itself became global.
Ah, okay. So while globalization brings the fat cat producer to your door, it also brings the international standards of safety and redressal.
Exactly. That's your counterargument. You balance the negative, the manipulation and consumerism, with the positive, which is a global rights framework and international standards. You could even argue that without globalization, Indian consumers might still be stuck with substandard local monopolies.
That is a solid argument. You're showing both sides of the coin.
That's what gets you the marks.
Let's look at another one. 2016 GS2, question 13. Has the Indian governmental system responded adequately to the demands of liberalization, privatization, and globalization started in 1991?
This is a classic critique question. It is asking for an evaluation. Adequately is the key word here.
But COPRA was 1986. That is before 1991.
True, but it anticipated the shift. As India opened up liberalization, the market became flooded with goods. The consumer became central. The government's response wasn't just the 1986 Act.
It was the whole machinery.
It was the establishment of separate departments of consumer affairs. It was the setting up of this three-tier court system. So you can argue that this legal machinery was a response to the changing market economy.
Okay, so the government realized that in a liberalized market, you cannot leave the citizen unprotected.
Precisely. The response was moving from a control-based economy, where the government sets prices, to a rights-based regulatory framework, where the market sets prices, but the government assures fairness.
But, and there's always a but, in UPSC, did they respond adequately?
Here, we must look at the critique provided in the NCERT text itself. The text ends on a bit of a somber note.
It does. It asks, is everything perfect? And the answer is clearly no.
Right. And the text highlights specific challenges that you can use in your critique. First, the process. It says it's becoming cumbersome, expensive, and time-consuming. The courts are slow.
So justice delayed is justice denied.
Exactly. Second, legal aid. The text says consumers often need lawyers now, even though the system was designed for people like Prakash to argue themselves. It has become too technical.
And the third point.
Evidence. The cash memo issue. People don't get receipts, so they can't prove anything. The informal economy is still huge. And finally, enforcement. Laws are there, but enforcement on the ground is weak.
So for that 2016 question, you would say, the government created the structure, COPRA, courts, which was a good initial response, but the implementation faces challenges of delay and complexity, making it partially inadequate.
Perfect. That is a balanced UPSC-level conclusion. You acknowledge the effort, but you critique the outcome.
One last link. The role of NGOs. This comes up in GS2 all the time.
The text provides data on this. It says there are over 700 consumer groups in India.
That sounds like a lot, a very active civil society.
It is, but the text adds a very important caveat. Only about 20-25 are well-organized and recognized for their work.
Ouch, that is a low conversion rate. So a lot of noise, but not a lot of signal.
It is. It shows that while civil society is active, it is fragmented. If you are writing an answer on the effectiveness of NGOs, you can use this data point. Quantity does not equal quality or impact. It suggests that we need consolidation and professionalization in the NGO sector.
This is gold. We have taken a 10th grade textbook and squeezed out points for GS1, GS2, and essay papers.
That is the power of reading with a purpose. You aren't just reading to pass 10th grade. You're reading to understand the governance architecture of India.
Okay, we are coming to the end of this deep dive. Let's recap the journey.
We started with the fat cat and the helpless consumer. We saw the rise of the movement from food shortages to UN guidelines. We unpacked the 6 rights: safety, information, choice, representation, redressal, and education.
We looked at the duties, the all-important cash memo, and the quality marks.
And finally, the 3-tier court system.
And we critiqued it all through the lens of UPSC questions. Now, before we sign off, I want to leave the listener with a thought. The text quotes Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes. A very famous quote. Gandhi said, "A customer is the most important visitor on our premises. He's not dependent on us. We are dependent on him."
It is a beautiful sentiment. It puts the human at the center of the economy. But I want to ask you, the listener, in the age of digital transactions where you click a button and a package arrives from a warehouse 3 states away, do you feel like the most important visitor?
Or do you feel like a data point?
Hmm.
The text mentions that information makes the consumer powerful. But today, we have too much information. The terms and conditions are 50 pages long. Has the complexity of the modern market actually made the consumer weaker despite having more laws?
That is something to chew on. Is digital illiteracy the new lack of cash memo?
That is a deep question. The next battleground for consumer rights isn't just about adulterated oil. It's about data privacy and algorithmic manipulation.
Indeed. All right, folks, that is a wrap for today's deep dive into consumer rights. I hope you feel armed with knowledge, both for your rights in the shop and for your marks in the exam.
Absolutely. Go out there and be an informed consumer.
Once again, a massive reminder of our mission here at Simplified UPSC by PTP. We are trying to make this journey easier for you. If you are capable, please support us on Patreon so we can keep bringing this super useful content. Every bit helps us keep the lights on and the research going.
And don't forget to like this deep dive, leave a valuable comment, tell us a story about a consumer right you fought for. Did you win? Did you lose? And share this with your study group.
Head over to the public Telegram channel for those free notes and PYQs. And for the serious aspirants, the private Telegram library is waiting for you with the premium content. DM us to join.
Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep checking for that ISI mark.
We will see you in the next deep dive. Ciao.